Welcome to the Qualitalks Podcast, a show about pharma and GMP. The pharmaceutical industry is a fascinating and complex field, and it takes countless people to bring a product to the market. In this podcast, we bring you some of the industry's brightest minds who will share their wisdom with you. And now, please welcome your host, Jan Kugel.
Welcome to the Qualitalks podcast, which is dedicated to exploring the intricate pharmaceutical industry. Today, we are honored to host Vivek Gera, the CEO at Leucine and a seasoned process engineer. Vivek has a wealth of experience leveraging cutting-edge technologies to enhance compliance and operational efficiency within the pharmaceutical manufacturing. Throughout this episode, we will delve into the transformative impact of AI on manufacturing, QA, and QC processes, shedding light on how these advancements are revolutionizing productivity and adherence to CGMP guidelines. So, Vivek, welcome to our show today.
Thank you, Jan, for inviting me. I'm really excited to have this chat and looking forward to it. Thank you.
It's my pleasure, Vivek. So, your journey is very interesting. So, you're a process engineer. You worked in various industries before you came to pharma and became also GXP consultant at some point, and then you decided to found your own company or co-found your own company, Leucine, which is AI software that helps with manufacturing processes. So, can you elaborate a bit on this life journey and how it came to be?
Yeah. So, Jan, while it may have been different kind of products being manufactured across the kind of companies that I worked, but a common theme would be that I have always worked at regulated manufacturing industries. So there has always been some kind of regulatory body, some kind of regulatory impact that can significantly impact the manufacturing outcome. So I started my journey not in pharma, but in a regulated manufacturing industry, mining. And like you said, I did my education as a process engineer, process control systems engineer, and spent a lot of time applying these skills to the manufacturing environment. When I say applying these skills, these are skills like being able to analyze the process, identifying opportunities to reduce waste, increase outcome, figure out where are the known value add areas which can be eliminated, identify some what kind of compliance requirements can be streamlined. So I think first of all, analyzing the process from improvement standpoint, but then I also spent a significant amount of time commissioning new plants from scratch. So that was the I think part which uh, made me a lot more experienced in how a plant should be designed from day one so that it is set for success and not for failure. So how do you really design the operating system or the control system of how the plant should operate? So I guess, while it has been multiple industries, it has always been a regulated manufacturing industry with the typical manufacturing outcomes at the core, improving quality, improving capacity, improving compliance. So, yeah, I think this is a brief description of how the journey has been so far.
And at what point did you land in the pharmaceutical industry, and uh, how did you become a consultant, and in which area did you consult, and what did you help your clients improve?
Yeah. No, it was about 5 years ago. And I think a pivotal moment came. So in one of the manufacturing plants I used to work at, it was big. It was big process plant, and we used to manufacture, uh, products which were almost $1 million per day in revenue. And one of those days, the plant was actually shut down for a compliance or a quality reason. And so that was my realization that how compliance can be a very critical function to the sustainability and the success of the company. and continuing on those learnings, I just kind of discovered that pharmaceutical industry was facing same kind of challenges about 5 years ago, and the regulations are a lot more stringent in pharma, and rightfully so, because we are dealing with human drugs. Lives are at stake. So I think for sure the idea was to see if those learnings can be applied into pharmaceutical industry as well. So based on that pivotal moment, the second discovery I was able to make quite early on was that the not only the problems existed, but the software ecosystem in pharma was designed in a very peculiar manner. So most of the softwares that I was able to discover, they were designed for delivering workflows. They were, designed for delivering the day-to-day actions. They were not truly optimized for delivering goals, the business critical goals that any manufacturing or any pharma manufacturing facility would like. So they were not designed to, uh, let's say, ensure 100% compliance with the standards which FDA sets out. They were not truly optimized for reducing the burden of compliance, or in some other words, we can call it cost of quality. They were not really optimized for even measuring cost of poor quality. So I think a combination of these two observations, I think truly presented Leucine as a company an opportunity to create some meaningful create a meaningful platform, and go on to the journey. I hope I was able to provide some insights, Jan.
Right, Vivek. And you mentioned that during your time in different manufacturing plants, also in pharma, you detected issues that always reoccur, and nothing has changed in at least 5 years. So, can you elaborate on that? It would also be interesting to hear your point of view on moving between industries. Like if you
Yeah.
go through, mining industry where you were at, and the pharmaceutical industry. So, what parallels do we have there that also can be uh, replicated, and the knowledge that can be transferred from one industry to another, and what are the repeating issues that you can see everywhere?
Right. And I think I was uniquely positioned to draw some learnings out of multiple industries, in this case. So I think every industry has its own strengths and weaknesses. Uh, what I had done prior to Lucene, I had seen just a lot more automation in the facility than you would typically see in a pharma manufacturing plant. So I think lack of automation was one of the weaknesses that I observed in the pharma sector. On the other hand, pharma is really strong in terms of defining uh, what do we exactly want in terms of quality. So I think an FDA has done a brilliant job here, coming up with well-defined guidelines. Uh, Sometimes I find that the FDA guidelines can be quite vague, but I also feel that it's really good because it allows the industry to stay true to science and not really just follow what have been told by FDA. So I think in a way, pharma does have a really unique strength of being able to define and leverage what is it that we exactly need in terms of quality. So which you can say was kind of lacking in the other industries where I've worked. So unique advantages, disadvantages, but being able to apply some of these learnings across industries, I think has been one of the core strengths that we have always tried to incorporate, at least in my work.
And specifically in pharma, when you came there, you've seen the challenges. So, what did you see that you feel that really needed improvement? Where you just said, "Okay, I want to create this software, but I won't do it in mining or water industry. Pharma is the place." So, where did you see the need?
Yeah. And Jan, this is where I actually did GXP consulting to begin with. So I didn't, straight away uh, get into solving the problem. I think it was really important, for me to get a deep insight into what the problem space looked like. And one of the best ways to do anything is to, be hands-on. And that's what I tried to do for almost a year. Worked with uh, a few companies as a GXP consultants while I was still learning on the job. But it gave me a first-hand idea of what the current operations, the current processes to optimize quality, to optimize manufacturing looked like. And this is when it was really clear to me that the biggest gap uh, that needed to be solved was, you know, not having goal-based processes. So, any manufacturing plant is set up keeping some goals in mind. The goals can be to, manufacture as much as possible. The goals can be to optimize revenue. The goal can be to, produce the highest possible quality of products. And these goals can be dynamic as well, depending on the market dynamics. And all the work that I did during my education, during my work in when I was working at manufacturing plants, it was always driven by some critical significant goals at the company level. And this was the immediate gap that I was able to observe, that the systems in pharma facilities, at least the ones which I saw, were not set up for delivering these goals. And I think uh, it was really obvious to me that uh, if we reorient the systems, the softwares, the processes, people, tools around single-mindedly chasing these goals, then a significant amount of improvement can be made. And when I say improvements, manufacturing, let's say 30-40% more drugs in the same facility, reducing deviations by, let's say, more than half. And specifically, you talk about recurring deviations, right? So that's, I think, still a big challenge as I see. Being able to, reduce the wastage, or as I sort of refer to it as the cost of poor quality, where the batches have been rejected due to some unforeseen circumstances, or a rework has been done, right? So avoiding any gaps which come in the way of goals. I think designing your entire system around that was one of the obvious opportunities that was evident to me.
Right. So you feel that the pharma manufacturing lacks goals, so people just do their job. Which so in pharma we have a lot of departments. They all have a common goal. We need to release a batch, but you feel that there is a lack from the management of insight, of vision, of goals that all the all the employees of the company to work towards, or at least in each plant. So that's what
Yeah.
you mean, right?
The goals are very clear, uh, and that's, I think, one of the another great things that pharma has done. And FDA has been kind of supporting that initiative from outside as well, defining quality metrics. At the end of the day, it's manufacturing, so defining lean manufacturing outcomes. So there is no ambiguity of any kind in the what is it that we are trying to achieve in pharma manufacturing. The gap is that the way the systems are set up, I felt that they were not very well designed or optimized to deliver those goals. Or if I can elaborate on this a bit more, we refer to them as business capabilities. So the business capabilities that any pharma company needs to succeed. So they must have the ability to produce consistent quality drugs. There must be an ability to successfully navigate through audits as and when needed. Uh, there should be capabilities around agility as and when some external events happen. Let's say there is any recall, not for you, but maybe for somebody else in the market. So you might have to respond to it in an agile manner. So some of the way some of the business capabilities I observed were designed. They were not systematically set up to successfully deliver on the manufacturing and quality goals. The goals were, I think, in my opinion, quite clear.
Mhm. Right. And what was your idea to fix this issue?
Yeah, so I think for me it was actually quite simple, and I think this is where you know the point which you talked about, cross-functional or experience from other industries comes into play. So most manufacturing industries that I was able to observe in my short span of career, the systems were kind of well designed, to deliver on larger goals like how much product are we going to manufacture this year, what would be the gross margin, what kind of material requirement we might have throughout the year, and then how do we really optimize the cost structure, cost of goods sold. At the same time, because I've always operated in regulated environment, how do we ensure um, compliance at all times, and then subsequently audit readiness at all times. So I think the idea for me was quite simple to replicate the learnings I had till date, but then contextualize it in the format of pharma, and build a software platform ecosystem which was from day one, from first principles, optimized for goal delivery, rather than doing day-to-day tasks and jobs, and then showing some reports and numbers and dashboards which did not guide any actions. If I have to describe it in a different way, build a decision support system. So any good software platform would always uh, guide the right set of users to take the right decision, without them having to really think about it. So building a decision support system was kind of the underlying theme behind what needed to be done to solve this problem, and I think that's what we are progressing towards at this point.
And what stage is the software at the moment? Is it already operational?
Yeah, so we have been operational for about 5 years now. We work with almost 300 GMP sites as of today. So the platform has picked up really well, and very excited to see what the future holds for us.
And does it use AI, as far as I understood from the information?
Yeah, so AI is at the very core. AI has been at the core pretty much from day one. And the reason we had to do it because, to be able to make any decision, you need to run various simulations, go through various scenarios, run optimization functions, and I'll also talk about how the even the AI landscape has shifted in the last 1 year and has moved to Gen AI. But I think if we are talking about any kind of decision support system, AI has to be at the very core of it, and this entire foundation has become just 10 times stronger, uh, with the additional abilities that generative AI has unlocked, and which is extremely, I think, relevant for pharma. If I may add some more details here. So I think one of the unique situations in pharma is that sometimes more than uh, quantitative data, the availability of qualitative data is a lot more. So if I, look inside a typical system, let's take an example of a QMS, a quality management system. So in my opinion, QMS is like the central nervous system of the entire manufacturing facility. It's a place where you can get a lot of information, because it's like, it's list of all the issues that are happening in the plant. What kind of deviations are going on, uh, what corrective preventive actions you took, what are the change controls that it might have led to, what are the OOTs which are happening in the facility, right? Are there any issues with the suppliers that we are encountering, right? So in my opinion, scanning a QMS system unlocks immense amount of opportunity. But if you look at what the foundation is, you will see text documents being attached in change controls. The investigations or impact assessments are, sometimes not available in structured format. They are available in, Word documents, PDFs. Um, so fundamentally, we have taken the example of a QMS, but I can extend it to other systems as well. The lack of availability of quantitative data, I think, has kept some of the possibilities aside, which now can be completely unlocked with generative AI. So I think that layer has improved the foundation by at least 10 times, and which is why we have completely transformed the platform, not only to move from AI to Gen AI, which makes a lot more sense given the problem space at hand as well, because Gen AI does not only a really good job at handling numbers, but it does um, like a remarkable job at reasoning with the qualitative data that's available, putting it in the context of science. So not only just reasoning or interpreting the data that's available, but also uh, evaluating it against the science and theory of pharma manufacturing. What does FDA believe in, right? So putting things in the context of uh, the science as well is what I think makes Gen AI remarkably superior to what we had until a year ago.
And do you implement also Gen AI in the Leucine system?
Yeah, so Leucine platform is today a completely a Gen AI transformation platform.
And what does it help? Does it connect with the QMS of the client, or does it connect to the manufacturer? And how does it do it?
Right. So since we focus heavily on quality and manufacturing, uh, QMS was the first system we started looking at. So we call it QMS activation. When I say activation, is the data activation for making decisions. And like I described earlier, the more we look at QMS, the more I become bullish that it holds a significant amount of opportunity for any company to make extremely critical business decisions. So building upon the theme of QMS activation, it's now possible to make decisions like, which of my products are robust, and hence we should continue doubling down on their manufacturing and their sales and marketing. But on the other hand, which of our products are not as robust as we imagined them to be, and are they the ones that may have to be reorganized in the portfolio. So going all the way till portfolio optimization, starting with very simple things like which deviations are occurring in a recurring manner, so that we can measure the effectiveness of kappa for those deviations, and come up with something better, so that the manual workload for quality assurance teams can be brought down, and hence, in other words, the cost of quality can be brought down, right? So just by activating the QMS data, uh, I am sometimes surprised how remarkable achievement can be made in goals like cost of quality, cost of poor quality, product robustness, and even identifying uh, opportunities for um, de-risking yourself against the external regulations that might not have been fully assessed on the facility. So we know that recently nitrosamine regulations came out, right? So a lot of work had to be done and will continue to be done to properly adhere to those. So which all molecules are impacted, what kind of risk assessment should be done, right? So even assessing and de-risking your FEI status with respect to the external regulations, uh, can be a critical goal that can be achieved by simply scanning QMS. So QMS activation, in my opinion, is an extremely important area, and every pharma company, in my opinion, if not already, will definitely look at in the near future. The same kind of work we have started doing for MES activation, so manufacturing execution system. The problem with that is that the penetration of MES systems is a lot lower than you would imagine it to be. So, while there is, I think, an equal amount of opportunity of MES activation, but it's quite likely that the lack of penetration might not be very helpful.
Mhm. That's interesting indeed to hear about that. So the QMS is much easier to connect to and gather data from. Right. And when you need to validate such a system that makes decisions, so you mentioned that a good AI can help make decision, cut the work time, reduce the cost of quality. So how simple or complex it is, and what is the best way to approach the validation of such a system that you need to rely on? So how complex is this?
Yeah. So it is not simple to be, I mean, for sure. However, I want to, introduce one important area here. So one of the unique advantages of and unique characteristics of Gen AI is that it does a really good job in terms of explainability. So it has, let's say, looked at your QMS, and perhaps with the combination of continuous regulatory monitoring and being able to leverage the science and technology behind pharma manufacturing, it will give you significant decisions. Now, one of the core, I think, difference between the Gen AI and the traditional AI, if I may call it that, is that the explainability is a lot better. So if you look at machine learning, it was really difficult to sometimes explain, how some of the correlations were made. Uh, why should we, let's say, change the temperature of uh, the vessel to be able to, let's say, influence a critical quality attribute, right? So it was more on correlation basis, and the explainability was somewhat lacking. Uh, but this is what I think is really different about Gen AI is that not only are you able to make superior decisions, but it also has much superior explainability. So because it reasons and interprets data just like a human, using the knowledge that is widely available, it just does it, in a much more remarkable manner. But it can give you step by step insights into what was the thinking process, what concepts were leveraged, uh, how was the decision made exactly, right? So um, so in a way it's I'll come to the validation in a bit, uh, but in a way it's really easy to understand the kind of decisions that Gen AI would have made. Now, coming to the validation bit, so the way I think, in my opinion, at least, the way industry is evolving, the technology is not fully, progressed towards a fully, GAM5 compliant, validation ready system as of today. However, it's moving at a good pace. So the way to imagine this today would be, just like you have a really intelligent, experienced person in your facility who is analyzing your systems, who is well aware of the external knowledge, and they are making decisions and they are explaining it to you. And ultimately, a final decision can be taken based on how good the explanation or how impactful the decision might look like, right? But in a way, it acts like a really powerful, data analyst or assistant or agent in more technical terms. If we invoke some other terminology, we might call it co-pilot as well. But because it has built-in explainability, uh, it's really straightforward to use some of the decisions that it can give you. To be able to validate the system, I sometimes question, is it even required or not? But even if it is, I think the technology, will progress over time. Right now, everything is moving at a fast pace. So I'm pretty sure that by the end of this year and maybe next quarter, we'll see some more case studies coming out on how to validate Gen AI.
Do you have any case studies where you can showcase how AI has been supporting the GMP compliance and GMP manufacturing? Either mentioning your own achievements or also the examples of additional systems that are out there, and what is the status at the moment?
Right. So I think this is a really, really interesting topic, and there's a lot which can be said and shared at this point. Um, and I'll give maybe a couple of minor examples here. So there are some opportunities which are pretty straightforward. So it acts as a really good reviewer. Right? So when we talk about manufacturing and quality, review ends up taking a lot of time and energy. Right? So um, streamlining reviews to the extent that they become nearly automated is one capability that Gen AI has already unlocked for many of the conversations that I am a part of. Not only reviewing but also generating, and this is how we all are used to by using systems like ChatGPT, by generating new content, new SOPs, new change controls, etc. So while there are these simple opportunities that I think almost every company has already begun leveraging and taking advantage of, right now the race is towards how do you come up with systems which are not linear, which are not incremental, but they you know truly become a game changer. So let's say that and I'll probably not go into a lot of details here, but coming up with new business models, right? I think that's a theme which can truly transform some of the traditional modalities. So I'm not talking about some of the newer ones, but some of the traditional modalities, can gain significant advantage by innovating on the business model, and we are seeing some really good examples coming out in the recent times. Uh, Simulation is something that I have heard from many leaders. So, you know, if we look at industries outside pharma, then simulation has been a very critical capability. So, before we design any system, uh, we would almost be able to run it in simulation mode, do all kind of optimizations, and come up with improvements which are extremely significant, like not 10-20%, but sometimes 50-60% as well. So uh, being able to perform simulations is something, in my opinion, that can be quite transformational. And I have heard it from many leaders in the industry as well. So while there are some obvious trivial use cases that I think almost everybody is already now doing, the race right now is to create some remarkable and meaningful uh, business capabilities that can take a company from being in the position of competing in day-to-day marketplace to a place where they almost head towards establishing monopolies, right? So I think speed will also be a great contributor in achieving that. So um, yeah, I think a lot can be shared, but I would probably take a pause on this point here.
Okay, right. And you mentioned that the generative AI is very helpful here, especially in analyzing reports and generating reports. But it means that a person still needs to be involved, right, in the review and the approval of such documents. Of course, it reduces the time to generate such a document because AI can fetch millions of data points, just really quickly analyze them according to the algorithm, according to what you wanted to analyze. But it's still, because it's generative AI, it might provide you different results each time you ask for it for an output, right? So this is one of the challenges here to validate, because the output is not always the same, and it means that you will still need decision makers to approve each such interaction that makes impact on quality, right?
Yeah, and Ian, I think you make two really good points here. First one about the human review, and second one being about the output of the generative AI being variable across time. So let me talk about the second point first, because I think that feeds into the review bit. So, there are ways to control the output of the generative AI model, and I think this is what will need to be done to be able to truly utilize LLMs as part of your core business foundation. So if you look at any off-the-shelf LLM, uh, they are designed to cater different kind of needs. They were not designed specifically for pharma, even though they do a really really good job. They, in my opinion, have almost achieved what we wanted to achieve. Um, but the way to truly productionize an LLM for your organization would be to further fine tune it. And I wouldn't go into a lot of technical details here, but uh, by personalizing, by customizing the LLM to not only a specific domain like pharma, the way we have done it, uh, but for a company who is manufacturing, let's say, sterile injectable drugs for a specific disease kind of modality, um, right? So making it as specific as possible. At the same time, I'll take a step back and one of the recommended architectures is to create a hybrid LLM, architecture where you are relying upon different models for different types of jobs. So for analytics, one kind of model may be superior than, let's say, another which could be doing a better job for generating SOPs, right? So uh, I think if you use off-the-shelf Gen AI models, uh, then the output can differ depending on when you ask the question. Um, but but we also know why that happens, right? So it's because of various technical limitations also that exist, but it is almost completely solvable by fine tuning and personalizing the LLMs for the industry and even your specific needs. So that's one of the things we have done. We have taken off the shelf LLMs and we have fine tuned it for pharma, which took us almost about a year, right? So it was not easy. It was not a very straightforward thing to do. We had to spend lots of efforts, energy, time, even capital in some cases to truly arrive at a stage where you can start relying upon the output, and which now means that the human review, while in my opinion it would still be required, it can be it doesn't have to be as critical as it would right in using off the shelf LLM. So I think, based on my understanding sitting here today, is that while we can design fully autonomous systems, uh, because they're primarily being designed for decision making, human review will be required, but the human review will be just to analyze how the decision has been made, what kind of supporting artifacts have been used. It would not really rely upon the ability to generate new ideas or be creative throughout the review process, but to just critically analyze the output. And hence, while I think in 6 months from now, a fully autonomous system uh, can present itself in the pharma context that we are discussing. As of today, some review is required, but it can be minimized by fine tuning your data model so that uh, you are not dealing with at least unnecessary variability.
Right. And what do you foresee for the QA people, right? The quality assurance department. So, do you see AI replacing a lot of the QA personnel because less review is needed? The report generate themselves, the deviations write maybe themselves through the data that they receive. So, how do you see the shift in the need of personnel in pharma?
Yeah, no, there will be a shift, and we are seeing the shift already. Um, and I can't disclose a lot of information here, but it would, you know, beyond any doubt, in I can say with 100% certainty that the percentage of quality assurance people within any pharma organization, can change. And if we take a couple of steps back, I think, you know, if we analyze the industry as a whole, the QA team uh, is typically anywhere between 10 to 15% of the entire workforce. This is based on some limited analysis that we had done a while ago. But if you look at other regulated industries, right? So I'm comparing regulated with regulated, which means that pharma with industries like medical devices, even semiconductors, aviation, right? So if we compare pharma with other regulated industries, the quality workforce is, you know, at least 3 to 5 times higher, and for all the right reasons. Because we want to be extremely cautious. We want to do thorough reviews. We want to analyze every checkpoint, because if anything goes wrong, we know that what is at stake, right? However, with the new capabilities that have been unlocked by generative AI, uh, the same, almost the same outcomes can be achieved by Gen AI in augmentation of a fewer number of people. So, in my mind, at least, there is no doubt that the requirement of quality team will go down, uh, within this year.
Right. So this is quite an impact on the industry from the quality perspective, right? Because coming from quality myself, I know that there is a lot of
Yeah,
manual tasks because not a lot of processes are automated. Like you get a deviation, you need to write everything from scratch. A lot of
yeah,
this can be automated. Finding, summarizing, a lot of those stuff can be then transferred to AI
yeah,
tasks. And in order to for people to keep their jobs in a way? Like, what do they need to change in their skills and their knowledge in order to still be relevant in the industry? What would you say about that?
Yeah. So, I don't have a lot of qualified opinions in this matter, but, I'll just, share what I have thought about this in the past. So, this, I think the situation that we have here today is not unique. Uh, you know, Over the last century or so, the technology has kept on improving. Uh, and it is just that the technology will continue to improve at a much faster rate going forward. And this is the same we have seen in almost every industry, that the rate of improvement has uh, you know been incremental. So we have not been evolving at the constant rate, but there is some acceleration in terms of how the technology evolves. And I think we are at a stage now where the technology is evolving really rapidly, beyond comfort. Uh, and we started seeing all of this, when um uh, the cost of computing, came down significantly. I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but I think it's somewhere around in a couple of magnitudes. So by a factor of 100 or maybe even 1,000, that the cost of computing has come down in a very short span of time. So again, I will have to go back and check the data, but the ability to compute has increased dramatically, and which means that uh, the rate of acceleration in the evolution of technology will continue to rise even at this point, which would render some people with skills that may not be relevant anymore. So it's something that will have to be built as part of the resiliency right from the the days when people are going through education, even when they're early in their career. So uh, you know the rapid uh, learning or rapid shift of skills will become a critical skill, in addition to the traditional skills that we have been having. So there is no, I think, right or wrong answer here, but uh, people who have been working in, let's say, the quality space, their fundamental skill was not to review the documents. Their fundamental skill was to analyze information and identify anomalies, right? So that's how I look at what quality function does at a foundational level. So this need still does exist in the industry, right? So the need of analyzing information in a meaningful way, identifying opportunities for improvement. So these opportunities are still there. Um, Maybe not so much in the quality function, but any company will need these foundational skills to continue to grow. So I do believe that the quality teams will need to start assessing their skill at a much more foundational level, and then look at cross-functional evolutions for themselves. I hope that made some kind of sense, Jan.
Yeah, yeah. So it made sense. So we see the shift, and you mentioned that the technology moves right now very rapidly. So within a couple of years, we'll see a tremendous shift in automation and AI. So I think that everybody who works in pharma and is used to working in paper, and if those people want to stay relevant, they need to be comfortable with technology, with analysis, and so on to stay relevant, because a lot of the manual tasks will be replaced. So the way for you to stay relevant is to know how to interact with technology and to uh, take advantage of it to the full extent. And I think that where personnel today will be decided upon which person has the right skill to analyze the data at the end, to sign off of the data, to understand analytics, but also to control the tools and the AI really quickly and rapidly, so you can do 10 times more work, achieve much more work than your colleague who cannot find himself and using the technology. So this is from my perspective, and how I think it supports what you're saying.
Yeah, I fully agree with that, Jan. And let me, share another observation quickly here. So, when we talk about things like paper, sometimes we automatically assume that people are comfortable working with paper. But in my, limited observations, especially the younger employees within pharma, they are all extremely well versed with technology. They are using, uh, you know, softwares at every step of their day, at every step of their life. Uh, they are extremely familiar with, all the all the tips and hacks that go into not only, let's say, ChatGPT, but also some of the other similar systems as well. So I think even from people standpoint, people are, if not already, evolving quite rapidly along with technology. So it's quite possible that there might not be even any resistance in adopting to the change, the way I look at it. Uh, it's just that the enterprises are and can be very slow to move because of just the nature of business. So the agility of an enterprise will, I think, truly determine how quickly the company, and the people associated with it evolve into the next era. As I said, transforming business model itself, completely pivoting the capabilities that are required to be successful in this industry, right? So I think agility becomes a really fundamental skill, and in my opinion, the employees or the people working within pharma may already be there. Now it's just the rate determining step might even be the agility of the enterprise itself, right? So we'll see how this pans out, but these are just my some of the observations I wanted to quickly add to this discussion.
Yeah, so that's a very interesting point, because it might be a stage where smaller companies can rise to be giants
Yeah,
in a way that they can use the agility and to implement technologies that will help them overrun huge companies, enterprises that it may take them years to
yeah,
implement the same software, because they need a lot of approvals and
yeah.
right. So that's quite an interesting view on this.
Yeah.
So
And
Vivek,
again,
yeah.
I think you couldn't be more spot on, at least, the way I am thinking about this. So finally, I think it is the moment for the mid-market, the smaller companies. Um, in some ways, they got lucky. They really didn't have to go through all the painful process of, extremely costly and extremely inefficient digitalization that the larger companies did. And now there is a true opportunity for them to leapfrog and straight away jump to the next era. Just like, many people never used those, landlines, telephones, right? And I don't know if there are people who are leapfrogging straight away to iPads and not looking at, let's say, laptops and desktops along the way. So similarly, for the small guy, it is now truly the moment for them to take advantage of the situation here.
Yeah, so that's extremely a good point, a suggestion to smaller companies. So this is a great opportunity, because uh, the huge companies have the advantage of a big size personnel, and now you can cut the cost by using much fewer people to create
Yeah.
similar results, and that's quite amazing, I would say. So thank you very much for being a guest on the Qualitex podcast. It was a pleasure talking to you about AI and your solutions. And if somebody wants to reach out to you to inquire more about AI and maybe your Leucine solutions, what is the best way to reach out?
Yeah. So I people can search me on LinkedIn. and from there they'll find their way to leucine.io, or they can straight away go to leucine.io and read through what we do. Uh, and I would truly appreciate if any of the listeners, viewers have any recommendations for me, any recommendations for the company. So I believe that all of us are at a stage where collaboration is the key. So um, I truly look for any uh, feedback, recommendations from any viewers to be able to do better in this domain. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Qualitalks podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please leave us a 5-star review. If you want to learn more about GMP, please visit us at www.qualistery.com. Stay compliant and see you at the next one.